James from Mac Audio, and we are doing a video installing Euphoria speakers. These ones here are the EX6NCD-CF. CF stands for carbon fiber, as it's a carbon fiber speaker. It's got the horn in the middle, the woofer, horn terminals, woofer terminals, and a crossover. So we are going to replace them in this 16 Road Glide, very similar to the Street Glide. Off the top of my memory, I don't think you need to heat it for the Street Glide, but everything else is the same. I'm sure there's plenty of ways to do this, and maybe some people might disagree with my way, but this is how we're doing them in this bike, and hopefully it helps some people learn how to do it themselves. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the speaker, and I'm going to remove the factory wiring because I need to send. You got two options. You can take this and stick it inside, but there's no solid flat surface area to stick it so that you're sure it's going to stick. And you don't want this thing rattling around in there while you're riding. One, it could damage this. Two, you might hear it and get annoying. So we're gonna remove the factory wiring, which we never do, and run our own wires through and install this externally. So we're gonna remove it, and then we're gonna remove the wiring. Removing the wiring is easy. You just undo this clip here. You can either pull this plastic piece out, or there's a little tab and it slides off. And then we remove the grommet, and we'll be able to remove the wiring once the speaker's out and disconnected. We have a new grommet that we're gonna put in. We're gonna run our speaker wires through and silicone it so it's sealed. All right, so for what that's worth, we used a T20 to get in there. Now the speaker's removed. Sometimes it sits a little. And we can unplug the terminals. And pull out the wire harness. We're gonna mock up the speaker to be installed because this speaker, unfortunately, is a little bit wider than the factory opening. Considering these are made for Harleys, I don't know why they keep doing it, but there's gotta be a reason because all the companies with this style speaker do it. So I'm gonna show you what I do. I found that the holes don't quite line up. I mean, they do, but they're not quite wide enough. So if you secure one side, the other side is too far over. So I just make my own new holes. So what I do is my hole input's here. So I have a lot of room there. So I want my terminals to be in this area. So I get it in the best I can. I see how it doesn't fit. So I get it in where I want it. I take a marker and I mark this area because that's what's hitting, all four of them. And they're the same spot as the holes. So now that's done, you can see the marks. I'm gonna go around with my Dremel and I'm gonna widen just those spots. I mean, you could widen the whole thing, but I feel like that's kind of pointless. You're doing a lot of extra work that you don't need. So I'm just gonna widen the area that I need, and I'm gonna go just outside these spots so I have a little wiggle room. And I am gonna Dremel out those areas. You do want to make sure in certain areas that you go deep enough, and you also want to make sure that areas like this, that's the outside. So you want to go deep enough, but you don't want to go through. If you do by chance burn through, you can add, some sound deadening, or we call it dumb gum. I'm not quite sure what it's actually called, with something just to seal it up so that the air isn't leaking, because you want this to be sealed completely. All right, so we got the first round done. A couple tips here is, one, there is a little nub here you want to get rid of so that the speaker can sit flush. Two, you don't want to go too far. You want to dry fit it until it's just right, because if you go too far, you're going to miss the plastic and not be able to put the screw in, because there's really not a lot of tolerance. So we got our areas dremeled out. I got to get rid of this nub, and then I'm going to dry fit and keep going until it fits. All right, so I think we got it enough. It's hard to tell, but it's enough to move to the next step, and if we have to come back to this, we will. But the problem now is the speaker's hitting right here. So we got to heat this up and expand it out so the speaker can fit. The other option is you could cut this and add sound deadening over it. I've done both ways. I like the heating because it keeps this integrity there rather than a hole that's covered. All right, so here's my professional setup. This is the spot right here, this area that needs to be heated. So I just set the heat gun and let it heat it. Obviously you can manually sit here and heat it as well. But then once that's heated up enough, I actually use this screwdriver here and I'll touch the plastic to see how soft it is. It's getting soft, but it's not soft enough. Then I'll flip it over and dry fit the speaker. Obviously be very careful because it, heat transfers, it's hot. All right, so this thing is pretty much where it needs to be. So I am going to flip it over and put the speaker in. All right, so we need a little more. Once we got really close, what I did, because I still gotta press it down, is I added one screw. I'm gonna heat it again to give me the leverage, and then add a second screw while it cools off. All right, so we got a final product. You can see it's not really that much of popping out, but the speaker is in and sealed. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna add the speaker line. So we're gonna add the speaker line, and one thing to note here is we're gonna put this in, we're gonna run it through. You wanna distinguish the difference in one. So I put on both sides a little bit of blue tape around the woofer, not the tweeter. So the blue tape means it's for the woofer. So later on when I hook it up to the crossover, I know. I've added my grommet. We have our connectors. I generally prefer insulated, but someone forgot to order them. Reality for this, it doesn't matter. I would still use insulated, but they're not gonna touch anything. There's no metal inside here. It's not a big deal. All right, so a couple things. One, you do want to make sure your positive and negative is right. Two, I should have ran the speaker wires through the grommet first. It would have made my life a little easier, but I think because I'm recording, I wasn't thinking, but that's normally what I do. And then the 187, the size, that's the size of the terminal, 1.187. Those are extremely tight fit. You could use a 250, it's a little bit of an easier fit, but you may want to just slightly crimp it so that it's more secured on the terminal. But I like the 187s because I really got to force them on and they're not going anywhere. So basically popping the speaker back in now, and we will put it back on the bike and show you the rest. So that's the bolt, and this is what was on the other side. So I don't know if you can get a new one of these as well, but that thing is not much there, so hopefully I can get it out. All right, so now we got the speaker pods back in place with the factory screws. We have our wires coming out here. One thing you want to make sure when you put these back that these wires don't get pinched behind something, and you got to undo a bolt. You know, so make sure the wires are in good position first. You got both sides done. We are taking the crossovers and we're gonna pop them right here. Some bikes might have GPS antenna here. I would just relocate it, but we're gonna put the crossovers here. I gotta make a little room for them, and this one here on this side, as you can see. And then we're gonna wire it up. So wiring is pretty ABC. We're gonna go from the output of the radio. I have actual adapters we're gonna use. From the output of the radio to the input of crossover, and then our woofer and our tweeter and the corresponding parts. So what you see is you have, I don't know if you can see it, but you have in, mid, and tweeter, and then positive, negative. So when you wire these up originally, you want to make sure, like I always do, orange positive, or if they're the same color, stripe negative. If it doesn't have a stripe, the writing negative, because the writing is like a stripe to me. But as long as you do them all the same, it doesn't matter which way you go. I mean, I could have done black positive if I really wanted, but you know, universal rule is the orange is positive. So speaker in, woofer out, and we tape the woofer so we know which one it is, and tweeter out. All right, so we got it all done. We got our input, our outputs, the mid to the mid, tweeter to the tweeter. We used alcohol and double-side taped this down. It's not going anywhere. A lot of the stuff from Harley's even double-side taped down. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna just do a little wire management and zip tie some of these wires so that it's a little cleaner. And if you have the capability, you want to flush cut all your zip ties, because if you don't, they become like little knives, and the next time you come in here, you run the risk of slicing your hand open. So I hope this was informative. I still got to do the other side, but this is pretty good. Pretty much all done. I got to put the bike back together. I got to put the cover on. Whatever. So if you guys have any questions, any clarification on what we did, please hit us up below. And if you like this content, please, you know, subscribe and pay attention to our page. We appreciate it. The more publicity we have, the better it is.